This is All 24 News World News Program live from Algiers, and up next are tonight's top stories. In Gaza, dozens killed, hospitals forced to close, and rights groups warn of massacres targeting families refusing to cooperate with the occupation. Algeria's president says the Palestinian state is inevitable, praising Algerian diplomacy and honoring the UN envoy with the Order of Merit for defending just causes. Also coming up, Venezuela reiterates strong support for Western Sahara as Zimbabwe reaffirms backing for both Western Sahara and Palestine. And later on, Britain sanctions Iran. Tehran recalls its envoy, and tensions spike amid a US uranium demand as Algeria urges a peaceful path. Welcome back. Since dawn Saturday, more than 90 Palestinians, most of them women and children, have been killed in a wave of massacres against displaced families across Gaza Strip. Medical sources say at least 15 people were killed and 70 injured when Nusayrat market was bombed, while 44 bodies were pulled from the rubble of homes and tents in Gaza City destroyed by explosive devices. Another 21 were killed in strikes on Nusayrat camp in Deir al-Balah, and 10 more in Khan Yunis, where displaced families searching for food were also hit. 10 Palestinians, including 2 children, were killed and dozens more wounded on Saturday after occupation forces opened fire near 8 distribution centers in Gaza Strip. Medical sources say 6 starving people were shot while trying to get food south of Khan Yunis. Al-Audi Hospital also confirmed it received the bodies of 4 others, among them 2 children, killed in an 8 distribution center south of Wadi Gaza along the so-called Netzarim axis. Life for Palestinians is getting even more difficult. Now the Zionist army is ordering a new wave of displacement to the south, marking another brutal chapter in this genocidal war. Zahra Farjani has the story.
Carrying their belongings on vehicles, donkey carts, and even on foot, Palestinians are moving from Gaza City towards the central and southern parts of the enclave as Zionist bombardments intensify. Rami al-Hassi walked from the city, leaning on his prosthetic leg to reach the southern side of Gaza. A father of 2, he faces a double struggle, leaving the city despite being unable to walk long distances with his new leg.
There were airstrikes, tank fire and shelling from ships. Every house was hit. We had no choice but to leave, without even clothes or blankets. There is no transport to the south. Trucks carry furniture, not people. What can I do? How can I walk? I lost a leg during the war. I need to rest before I can keep going. I've been walking since yesterday morning at 6 a.m. from beach camp, and now I'm still on the road.
Nader reached the south after a long and exhausting journey with her family. Even there, the situation remains dire, with a severe shortage of food, water and safety.
We left where they were firing at us with drones. We fled the city with the children. May God protect us. We walked from the Jala to here. We have no blankets, no furniture, nothing at all. No water, no shelter, no food. Even here, it's not safe. They say the south is safe, but it's not. Drones were shooting at us during the night. May God help us. What are we supposed to do?
Faced with forced displacement, relentless bombardment, famine, disease and misery, Palestinians in Gaza live each day as if it were their last. A physical and psychological ordeal driven entirely by the Zionist war machine.
Meanwhile, Gaza's health ministry announced Saturday that 20 hospitals and clinics in the north, including Gaza City, have completely shut down. It warned that the last 8 still running could soon be forced to close too, as the Zionist siege blocks fuel and medical supplies while targeting the facilities. The ministry said this would mean certain death for patients and the wounded, especially children. The Euro-Mediterranean Human Rights Monitor says occupation forces have wiped out entire families in Gaza for refusing to fall in line. Testimonies point to families being told they'd be killed if they stayed put or refused to leave. One case is the Becker family in the Shati camp. 8 of them, including women and children, were wiped out just a day after saying no to those demands.
Israel is pursuing a dangerous form of blackmail against families in Gaza, forcing them into 2 devastating choices with no alternative. Either cooperate with the Israeli army and its militias or face mass killings, starvation and forced displacement. This policy reflects an escalating pattern of genocide, shifting from individual coercion to collective pressure. It aims to dismantle the fabric of Palestinian society by compelling individuals to betray their communities, break down social bonds, and subject survivors to conditions of survival that erode identity and undermine the ability to endure. Palestinian families have faced direct pressure to provide security cooperation with the army in exchange for permission to remain in certain areas or to access basic aid. The Israeli army has turned humanitarian relief, an unconditional human right, into a tool of extortion.
A flotilla of nearly 50 boats had set sail from Italy loaded with aid and carrying international activists on their way to Gaza. The mission, called the 1,000 Madeleines, is meant to break through the blockade and shine a light on the collective punishment of Palestinians in the Strip. Yasin has more in this report.
A fleet of humanitarian boats called the 1,000 Madeleines set off from Catania, Sicily on Saturday, bound for Gaza. The departure came just a day after the global Samud flotilla announced it would press ahead despite threats from the Zionist entity to block the mission by any means.
The people of the world once again are leaving out on a flotilla to break Israel's illegal blockade on Gaza that prevents them from accessing their own waters, prevents them from fishing or having trade or bringing in any food, because we need to secure their rights so that they don't need aid. They don't need flotillas. They can just live like anyone.
I'm the co-founder of the Gaza Sunbirds. We're Palestine's paracycling team. My team was founded back in 2020 when Palestine's cycling champion الدولية was shot in the leg by an illegal explosive Israeli bullet at a peaceful demonstration for freedom. His leg had to get an amputation because he was rejected medical leave by the Israelis.
In all, 50 boats are taking part in the mission, carrying lawmakers, lawyers and activists, among them Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg. Organizers say it's not just about getting aid in, but also about challenging the collective punishment of Gaza's 2 million people.
Become clear is that all of our movements in our own cities is not pushing the governments to the point where they're willing to take action. But we've seen it so expertly shown to us by the Samud flotilla, which is just right now on its way to Gaza, is that when you get into the water, when you're at the border, when you're face to face with the genocidal entity, then your government is willing to step in.
Tensions climbed earlier this week after reported drone attacks, prompting Spain to send naval ships to protect its citizens and other European participants. But for many Palestinians, the 1,000 Madeleines is more than aid. It is a symbol of defiance, a sign of solidarity from the Mediterranean, and a reminder that Gaza's fight for freedom won't be silenced.
In another development, Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune says a Palestinian state is bound to happen within the 1967 borders, with Al-Quds as its capital. Speaking in his regular media meeting Friday night, he underlined that solving the Palestinian cause is the only way to make that state a reality, and made it clear there is no room for the illusion of a so-called Greater Israel.
أقول فقط أن من أول نضال تاع الجزائر وعلى أساس خلق الدولة الفلسطينية. شخصيا قلتها في الأمم المتحدة، قلتها في كل المناسبات، قلتها في اللقاءات الدولية في زياراتنا الرسمية وفي استقبالنا نسموه. ما فيش حل ما عدا الدولة الفلسطينية في حدودها 1967 والقدس شريف كعاصمة. قلنا كانوا الناس دايرين سخرية، قال عايشين في أوهام ورانا دخلنا في إسرائيل الكبرى ودخلنا في كذا. لا إسرائيل الكبرى ولا يحزنون.
On the same occasion, President Abdelmajid Tebboune praised Algerian diplomacy at the UN Security Council, saying its push brought the Palestinian issue before the UN General Assembly. That effort paid off last year when 143 nations voted to recognize Palestine's right to full statehood and UN membership.
فلسطين دولة احنا نظرنا من أنها أنتم تشفوا كصحفيين القمة العربية الأولى، القمة تاع 2022 درنا عنها، كان هذا هو أساسها. كان على أساس أننا نعاود ننظم صفوف الفلسطينية باش نخرج منظمة التحرير الفلسطينية قوية، ما نخرج بفصيلة ولا اثنين ولا فهدي ولا فهدي. منظمة التحرير الفلسطينية كممثل شرعي ووحيد للفلسطينيين. ما وصلناش للهدف، ما خلوناش. من بعد قلنا الأمم المتحدة احنا اللي دخلنا قضية في الجمعية العامة، واللي صوتوا العام الماضي 143 دولة على أساس فلسطين كدولة كاملة الحقوق وعضوية كاملة العضوية في الأمم المتحدة. أنا حضرت مع السيد المحترم الأمين العام تاع الأمم المتحدة ومشينا فيها، كان فيه فيتو، مازال باقي هذا الفيتو هذا، ولكن اليوم الشيء اللي نتفائلوا فيه هو أن الأعضاء الدائمة بقى أنسى فيتو، 4 خلاص اعترفوا به.
President Abdelmajid Tebboune has decided to award Algeria's UN envoy, Ambassador Ammar bin Jama, the National Order of Merit, rank of Al-Ashir. He praised Algerian diplomacy for stepping up its game, especially with its achievements at the UN Security Council.
الشيء اللي وصلنا ليه في مجلس الأمن يشرف الجزائر، يشرف وزارة الخارجية، شيء ممتاز. ونعطيكم سكوب، أمس راني مضيت المرسوم تاع إهداء الوسام الاستحقاق الوطني لسي بن جامع.
On behalf of President Abdelmajid Tebboune, Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf on Saturday led a ceremony in New York to award Algeria's UN envoy Ammar bin Jama the National Order of Merit Al-Ashir rank. Attaf said the honor recognizes bin Jama's competence, loyalty and dedication in representing Algeria, his defense of just causes like Palestine and Western Sahara, and his work to raise global awareness.
يسدي السيد عبد المجيد تبون.
President Abdelmajid Tebboune bestows the National Order of Merit rank of Ashir upon Mr. Benjamin Ammar, Algeria's ambassador and permanent representative to the United Nations in New York, in recognition of his competence, loyalty and dedication in representing Algeria at this prestigious international forum. This honor also acknowledges his skillful, wise and resolute defense of just causes around the world, foremost among them the Palestinian cause and the Sahrawi cause, as to the last bastions of occupation. It further commends his tireless efforts that have raised the voice of truth high in Algeria's name, supported the will of peoples, and contributed to awakening human consciousness to the dangers of injustice, persecution, and colonialism.
After the ceremony, Ambassador Ammar bin Jama thanked President of the Republic Abdelmajid Tebboune and said he remains committed to serving Algeria with sincerity and dedication.
I would like to renew my deep gratitude to the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune. I extend to him my sincere thanks and appreciation, and I know as I speak on behalf of all my colleagues that we will remain loyal, working with sincerity and dedication in the service of our beloved country.
Algerian Foreign Minister of State Ahmed Attaf met with the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in New York on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. The Foreign Ministry says their talks touched on global challenges and how to boost multilateral action for peace and development, as well as key issues like Palestine, Western Sahara, and the situation in the Sahel. In another story, Venezuelan Foreign Minister Juan Eduardo Gil Pinto reaffirmed his country's firm support for the Sahrawi people and their just cause. Speaking at the 80th UN General Assembly in New York, he underscored the need to guarantee their right to self-determination and the establishment of an independent state.
El gobierno revolucionario del presidente Nicolás Maduro.
The revolutionary government of President Nicolás Maduro fully reaffirms its commitment in building a world of respect for international law without hegemonic or warmongering empires, a world where people of the global south can be guaranteed their right to peace and future.
On a related note, Zimbabwe has reaffirmed its steadfast support for Palestine and Western Sahara, expressing solidarity with their legitimate quest for self-determination. In an address to the UN General Assembly, Zimbabwean Foreign Minister Amon Morwera stated that his country's position is rooted in its own history for a long-armed struggle for freedom and independence.
Zimbabwe was born out of a protracted liberation struggle which was armed for freedom and independence. Hence, its continued solidarity with the people of Palestine and the Western Sahara in their justified search for self-determination. The Palestinians have endured severe, sustained, and systematic injustices under the glare of the.
In another topical development now, Britain's UN Ambassador Barbara Wood confirmed Friday that sanctions on Iran will be reimposed Saturday after a Russian-Chinese bid to delay the move failed at the Security Council. She said the Council had completed the required steps under Resolutions 22 and 31, with 4 countries voting for the draft resolution targeting Iran's uranium enrichment program. In response, Iran's official news agency reported Saturday that Tehran has summoned its ambassadors to Germany, France, and the UK for consultations over the dispute resolution mechanism tied to the reimposition of UN sanctions. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said Saturday that Washington had demanded Tehran hand over all its enriched uranium in exchange for a 3-month suspension of sanctions. Speaking in New York before returning to Tehran, he called the demand unacceptable and stressed that no agreement had been reached with the United States on mechanism to delay the reimposition of international sanctions.
Iran will never seek nuclear weapons. We are fully prepared to be transparent about our highly enriched uranium. They want us to hand over all our enriched uranium. In a few months, they will have a new demand, and will say again that they want to reinstate the snapback.
For its part, Algeria urged giving time for negotiations as the only path to a lasting solution to the Iranian nuclear issue. After the UN Security Council vote, Deputy UN Ambassador Toufiq El-Eid Koudri regretted the Council's failure to extend the lifting of sanctions, saying it missed a chance to promote dialogue. He warned that abandoning diplomacy would have dire consequences for the Middle East and global security.
As we have consistently and emphatically stressed, any alternative to a peaceful solution to the Iranian nuclear file entails risks with grave consequences for the Middle East, as well as for international peace and security. Undoubtedly, the recent talks and consultations among the various parties involved in this matter, including the practical arrangements reached between Iran and the International Atomic Energy Agency on September 9th, confirm that dialogue, along with political and diplomatic efforts aimed at finding a negotiated solution, remains possible.
الرامية إلى إيجاد حل عن طريق التفاوض لا تزال ممكنة.
UN sanctions against Iran are set to resume this Saturday at midnight GMT. This follows a move by European powers known as the E3, who triggered a 30-day process by accusing Tehran of violating the terms of the 2015 nuclear agreement. Karim Estfawi has more.
With UN sanctions on Iran set to snap back after China and Russia failed to delay the move, people on the street of Tehran know the economic hit could be heavy. Many voiced frustration, saying missed diplomatic chances might have prevented this outcome.
This will have an impact. It's impossible that it won't. One way or another, we will end up isolated. Economically, it will certainly have an impact.
Listen, there is no more time for reconciliation. It's over. They should have acted earlier.
The sanctions coming back into force would restore measures once lifted under the 2015 nuclear deal, from an arms embargo to a ban on uranium enrichment, plus asset freezes and travel bans. But despite how tough these steps sound, men in Tehran say their main worry is still just getting by day to day.
I just want to make a living. I don't care about the resolution. I want a process that allows me to live a decent life for myself, my kids and others like me. That's what I want. Now, if they want to do something they believe is in the country's best interest, maybe they have a long-term vision that we don't understand, or maybe it's shallow thinking. But for us, it's simple. We just want to make a living, that's all.
Iran has repeatedly insisted it has no plans to wield nuclear weapons, dismissing Western claims of breaching the 2015 deal. On Saturday, officials in Tehran slammed the renewed sanctions as dangerous precedent, calling them illegal and unethical. As sanctions snap back, the debate over diplomacy and nuclear ambitions may rage on in-height corridors of power, but on Tehran street, the struggle is far more basic, putting food on the table and holding onto hope.
More international news stories making waves in the News in Brief, compiled to us by Salman Asib and Sofian Kanturi.
The United Nations reaffirmed its firm rejection of any attempts to undermine legitimacy or establish parallel governments in Sudan. According to the Sudanese news agency, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres met with Sudanese Prime Minister Kamil Idris on Friday in New York, expressing support for Sudanese state institutions. They also discussed enhancing cooperation, especially in peace building and sustainable development.
The Russian Defense Ministry announced on Saturday that its forces had taken control of 3 new towns in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk and Dnipropetrovsk regions. In its daily update on military operations in Ukraine, the ministry said units from Eastern Group advanced deeper into Ukrainian defenses.
Renewed clashes occurred Saturday at the Thailand-Cambodia border, despite a ceasefire agreement signed last July. Cambodia's defense ministry accused Thai forces of cross-border attacks with mortars and rifles on Cambodian troops near Assis. In response, Thailand's military said Cambodian forces fired small arms and grenade launchers at Thai positions in Ubon Ratchathani province.
US President Donald Trump announced that he has directed the Secretary of Defense to send all necessary forces to Portland, Oregon, citing the need to confront what he called domestic terrorism.
And that wraps up our news program for tonight. For the latest updates, stay connected with us on our social media platforms. On behalf of All 24 News team, thanks for spending your evening with us. I'm Islam Said signing off. Have a great night.